Morning, everybody. 1968 was a pretty rough year. In our country, we had all kinds of traumas, but so did the Europeans. And on this date, August 20 in 1968, the Prague Spring, an attempt by the Czech people to have more freedom from their communist rulers, was crushed when Warsaw Pact troops invaded Czechoslovakia. This map shows where some of the ancient Celtic people lived in Europe, and in the upper right you see the word Boli. They became the Bohemians, who are the Czechs today. During the Holy Roman Empire, there was a Duchy of Bohemia. So that idea of a unique people in that part of Europe had taken hold a long time ago. Jan Hus on the left was a Bohemian. He's a hero of the Czech people today. He was a reformer, and he had a big influence on Martin Luther, who lived somewhat later than he did. And after the Reformation, in the 1600s, Protestants and Catholics were at war with each other in mostly Germany, but other places too. This is known as the 30 Years' War. And what triggered it was an issue having to do with who would be in charge in Bohemia, or modern Czech Republic. After Napoleon, nationalism was on the rise in Europe. Prior to the Napoleonic Wars, you didn't really hear that word that much, and that really affected the Czech people. Notice the light blue is Bohemia, and then all these other colors in that part of the world under the Habsburg Empire, they all want to have their own country, but not everybody can. So how do you do that? So when World War I began, here's the map of the World War I lineup. You notice Austria-Hungary. You don't see that word Czechoslovakia. But when World War I ended, new nations showed up like Czechoslovakia. Now today it's the Czech Republic and the Slovak Republic, but they were together. And in the interwar years, things were going on, and the Sudeten land, which was an area in the Czech Republic of German speakers, Hitler said, hey, these people are being persecuted, and if you don't do something about it, I'm going to go to war. And the Czechs were ready to fight, but the French and the Brits said, no, Hitler will let you have Sudeten land. So he went to Munich, signed the Munich Pact, which everybody said, okay, now Hitler's going to be nice. But in fact, he was never going to honor it. And the next year, in March 1939, Hitler invaded the rest of Czechoslovakia. Here are German troops occupying Prague. And then World War II happened. So after World War II, when the Soviet Union controlled so much of that part of Europe behind what we call the Iron Curtain, there was Czechoslovakia, but they were on the border with Germany. So when Stalin died in 1953, there was hope for some kind of thaw, particularly for the places that were the farthest from Russia. And this guy, Alexander Dubček, was the head of the Communist Party in Czechoslovakia during our story, and he talked about socialism with a human face, and could they make socialism be better? Now, the Czech people have had a long tradition of writers and poets and intellectuals who not only wrote for everybody, but they also were in government. In fact, the first leader of modern Czechoslovakia was poet Václav Havel. And this great photo, 1968, you see Dubček and other leaders with writers and poets, and they're talking about what kind of free society they could have. But didn't last. August 20, 1968, our event, 500,000 Warsaw Pact troops entered Czechoslovakia, crushed what was called the Prague Spring, and the Czechs won't be free of that until around 1990. Now, during 1968, in the Winter Games, the Czech hockey team beat the Russian hockey team, and the next year in the World Championships, they did that again. So that was a big thumbs up for them, who were persecuted by the Soviets. So if you get to Prague and you go to Wenceslas Square, here's good old King Wenceslas, who lived in the 10th century. Be happy for the final independence of Czech people.